Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Parentano.
Present.
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mrs. Bowman.
Here.
Ms. Boyle. Mrs. Hallenbeck.
Present.
Mr. Kovitz.
Here.
Mr. Marrington.
Here.
Mr. Sullivan, or Mr. Cirillo.
Here.
And Mr. Sullivan is absent with prior notice.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have a special action item, 201, suspension of policy 006.1. Whereas Board Policy 006.1, attendance at meetings via the electronic communications, was approved and adopted by the district on October 24, 2017, in accordance to Pennsylvania School Code and local district guidelines, providing for only one board member to attend by teleconferencing electronic communication, whereas Board Policy 003 permits the board to suspend board policy by majority vote. Now therefore be it resolved in accordance with Board Policy 003, the Neshaminy School Board of School Directors hereby approves temporary suspension of Policy 006.1 until the next meeting, so as to remove the maximum number of board members permitted to participate in board meeting via electronic communication, teleconferencing, and count it towards a quorum, and to remove the requirement that a quorum physically be present. Motion's been made. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Bowman. All in favor?
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
This just means that we can teleconference whenever we want during this situation. We don't have to be live to have a quorum. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. The board met in executive session this evening prior to the meeting to discuss matters of employment, issues related to labor relations, the purchase and lease of real property, matters related to litigation, and matters related to school safety and security. Mrs. Burns, do we have any announcements?
No announcements.
Thank you. That brings us to Dr. McGee. Superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Parentano. I'd like to take a moment to celebrate what's right. That's a phrase used by our former superintendent. That's how Mr. Jones started every meeting, and I've gotten away from that. So I want to list some things that have gone right as we manage 2020. Did you know that Neshaminy Drama presented 12 incompetent jurors in a drama virtual theater last week? So yes, you can watch live theater via the internet for free from home from Neshaminy High School. Did you know that 2 Maple Point students wrote prize-winning essays in a nationwide VFW-sponsored essay competition? Under the tutelage of Mrs. Foley and Mrs. Schmidt, 8th graders Juliana French and Maggie Gottschalk placed 2nd and 3rd, writing about what is patriotism to me. Julie and Maddie can be viewed reading their winning essays on the Neshaminy YouTube channel. Did you know that a team of 8th grade teachers at Maple Point met on Zoom throughout the summer with their students just to stay in contact with them during the pandemic? Did you know that Neshaminy art teacher Dr. Stacy Pottiger visited the White House at the invitation of the First Lady? She's there right now. 13 Neshaminy students in grades 3 through 12 are finalists in America Celebrates, the White House Ornament Contest. Details of the contest and the winners can be found on the website in the very near future. And did you know, fall sports, Neshaminy High School's girls soccer team won Suburban 1 Patriot Division. Did you know a member of the girls tennis team qualified for the District 1 tournament? 2 members of our cross-country team qualified for the District 1 championship race. The Neshaminy High School girls field hockey team also won the district, or the Suburban 1 Patriot Division. And finally, the Neshaminy High School boys soccer team not only won the District 1 championship, but was runner-up in the state championship game last Saturday in Hershey, losing in double overtime. Some things to celebrate what's right, and we will try to get back to that more often in the future. Now to the pressing matters of what's in front of us this evening. At each superintendent's report, I've talked about the county COVID metrics. Though I don't have the chart for you, the metrics are that there are 200 plus incidences per 100,000 in the county. That is the highest we've seen. The positivity rate of COVID tests is above 10%, and those two numbers put us in the substantial range. And what that means is the Department of Education, their recommendation is that Neshaminy move to all remote learning and cancel our face-to-face learning. In addition to that recommendation, as of Thursday, the way to make sure that if you're not going to follow that recommendation, that you do what's right, they asked that we attest that we're going to follow the governor's mask order and then follow the recommendations to close our schools in a school-by-school, program-by-program method based on metrics that are not fully defined yet. All right, so based on the recommendation, now there's an attestation, which we're hoping the board approves tonight, that allows us to remain open, assuming we follow certain safety procedures and protocols, which we've been following in the past, to be able to keep our schools open. All right. In addition to that, what I can say is that the spike that we've seen in our community and around the nation isn't necessarily happening that significantly in our schools. As of today at noon, reports of COVID cases that infect our schools are as follows. And before I say that, let me make sure I define what a case is. A case is when we have to notify others that they've been in contact with someone who's COVID positive, and they should be concerned that that contact was within a 48-hour period. And that process is set by not only local, state, but federal contact tracing. So over the course of the past month, since middle of September, when we began bringing students in, the number of times we've had to notify people and do contact tracing within our schools are as follows. At the elementary level, there were 10 students and 6 staff members since the middle of September. And I can say with great confidence that there hasn't been student-to-student movement among those 10. They came from outside the school. There has not been student-to-staff movement or staff-to-student movement. At the middle school, 6 students and two staff members, the same conditions. We know of no incident where it has moved within the school. The COVID cases have come in from outside and been in the school environment within that 48-hour window. At the high school, as of today, 10 students and 5 staff members. And I can't say what I've said on the last 3 because we believe 2 of those staff members may have moved the virus within the building. Can't be sure, but we believe that is where it happened. In addition, there are 3 staff members who work in multiple buildings, could be contractors, somebody like myself, who moves throughout the district, who have also been positive, requiring us to do contact tracing. So that is our incidence level within the schools. And presently, we are able to, when informed, address those issues that day or that evening and exclude and quarantine, with the cooperation of the Department of Health, those necessary to be removed the following day. So that is the process now. Tonight we are recommending that we continue forward. The administration and I are recommending we continue forward with our plan with the following modifications to our health and safety plan. 1, we would like to eliminate the voluntary choice to wear a face shield instead of any other face covering. So we'll eliminate the face shield option. The face shield will be used for those who are unable to wear a mask for documented reasons. Excuse me. Mass breaks will only occur when students are at least 6 feet apart. That is the present practice. In some situations at the elementary school, in particular classrooms, that distance may be less than 6 feet as we move forward. When we mass break, we will make sure that is six feet. We will reduce the unnecessary mixing of student groups at all levels. So at some levels, it's not possible to reduce that mixing of groups, but at other levels it is. For example, when a class moves from a classroom in the elementary level to the art room, there's no reason to move who the children are sitting next to as they move those two rooms. There might be some room changes, but the idea is to keep the contacts down. So we'll work that at the elementary and some instances at the middle school level where we mix when we don't necessarily have to. Number 4 is the indoor air quality improvements using bipolar ionization and ultraviolet germicidal radiation. The board approved that earlier this fall. We are staged and ready to go. That installation should begin no later than Monday and should be completed at our elementary schools, all 6 of them, by the end of the following week. Some of the elementary schools will be completed the week after Thanksgiving. And we'll prioritize the other elementary schools to get them done the week after, at which point they will move to the secondary buildings. Number 5, excuse me, we have the opportunity to partner with CHOP and provide rapid COVID testing for students and staff, of course, with permission. That is a pilot program coming out of CHOP that Neshaminy is in the early stages of being involved with. So we asked the board to continue to pursue that particular venue. And the final piece is adding additional contact tracers or case investigators here at Neshaminy. Presently, we can take care of the load. If the load changes, it would require us to close schools because we couldn't get done what we needed to get done before the next event the following day. The more people we have to do the investigation, the more chances we can get that done and keep our schools open the following day. So we asked the board's permission to add beyond what we presently have to assist with that process. So that is the superintendent's report. Mr. Parentano, I'll be glad to take questions now or at any point.
Does any board member have any questions for Dr. McGee at this time? Hearing none, we're going to move.
Actually,
Go
just
right ahead.
Real quick, just for clarification purposes, you talked about the indoor air quality.
Yes.
At the elementary schools, they'll be given priority. We're going to be doing those changes first.
Yes, so we're staged, ready to go. They're to begin at, I can't come up with the elementary school name, on the 30th, and they will move through the 6 elementary schools, completing 3 of them in that first week, November 30th, and then 3 of them the second week. Mr. Owen, am I accurate on that?
That's correct. Cougar was the first one.
Okay, so they should be done by middle of December,
They should be done by the 4th plus 7, the 11th, yes.
the 11th. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to our public comment period. You'll be called to the podium for those who signed up. You'll please state your name, the area you live in, your occupation. You'll have 3 minutes, and please no personal attacks. Mrs. Burns?
Mary Siklinski.
Good evening. My name is Mary Kwaklinski. I am a Neshaminy School District resident and teacher and a vice president of the Neshaminy Federation of Teachers. I am here this evening to speak on behalf of the certified staff of the Neshaminy Federation of Teachers, most especially the elementary staff who serve this community. The recent increase in COVID cases in our local school, community, county, state, and nation are not to be ignored. This has our members very concerned about a November 30th change from the current blue-red hybrid model that includes 6-foot physical distancing to the Plan A all-in model at the K-4 elementary level. At this time, it is the recommendation of the Neshaminy Federation of Teachers to the Neshaminy administration and school board that in-person education remains in the current blue-red hybrid model for all grade levels. Out of concern for the health and safety of our educators and the students we serve, we ask that you support the continuation of the hybrid model at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy Diarchi.
Hello, my name is Stacy D'Arcy. I am a resident of Langhorne in the Idlewood section. I currently work as a registered nurse at a local community hospital, and I am just here tonight to express my concern over the current decision to move our elementary school children to the Plan A option. I do have a son that is a first grader at Hoover, and based on Bucks County moving to the substantial risk category and the prior recommendations being that this would mean all online learning, I do not feel that right now is the current time to be moving our children to all in education. I feel with the current guidelines, having done so well because we were not seeing spikes in cases. And I feel that if we now have an increase in cases and we are bringing more students into the building, I feel like we are going to create a perfect storm for more community spread. And in turn, I feel that is going to overwhelm our hospital systems. So I would like to ask that we hold off on moving the kids to all in. I feel that our current plan of blue-red hybrid is working well, and I feel that it's a nice compromise for everyone. Kids get to be online, they are socially distanced, but they also get some time in school. And I feel that right now is not the time to change that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it for the signups.
Is there anyone else in attendance that would like to approach the podium? Go right ahead.
Hi, Deborah Harker, Middletown Township. As you guys are moving to the all-in in the elementary, which is obviously that you'll eventually be going to that in the other grades in a few months, I'm concerned about using these children as like a test case. When we reduce the physical space from 6 feet down to 3 feet, I still don't understand, as you intend to modify the health and safety plan tonight, why you still have a modified quarantine as an acceptable method to allow for students who have had a confirmed close contact to come back into the classrooms. This means that you're going to have elementary school children who may have a family member at home who is positive with COVID sitting next to less than 3 feet, because when we talk about 3 feet, we're not really talking about 3 feet. We're talking about 3 feet from the center of desk to another center of a desk. So you're talking less than 3 feet. I don't understand why this has not come up for more broad discussion amongst the board, and why you are willing to accept that as an acceptable risk to these children. The modified quarantine allows for the spread of the virus within our schools, and I don't understand why you want it and why you accept that risk and instead of excluding it. The Board of Health, I've had conversations with them. They have told me confidently this is a decision that Neshaminy has made. Not all schools accept it, and they follow the flow chart. If the student school allows the modified quarantine, they will send them back into the school. If the school does not allow the modified quarantine, they will ask that that child stay home from school. We're not excluding them. The Board of Health would exclude them. And with them being able to do that and make that decision to be able to exclude the student from school, I don't understand why you want that child in school when we have the Zoom option. If you have any opportunity to keep the schools safe and to keep the virus out and to keep education continuous, please exclude the modified quarantine from your health and safety plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to routine matters. Brings us to 4.01 minutes. Be it resolved that the Neshaminy School Board of School Directors hereby approves the attached minutes for the October 27th, 2020 Public Board Meeting and the November 10th, 2020 Public Work Session. Motion's been made. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Hollenbach. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I have one comment. I'd like to request an amendment to the minutes regarding the public works session. Item 1.01 called order states Mr. Pertano called the meeting to order. That was actually me.
And that's the 11:10 meeting?
Correct.
Alrighty. I'd like to ask for, we have to ask for, amendment's been made to have the record corrected in the minutes on the meeting of 11/10/20 as per Mr. Allen. Any additional comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. I'd like to make a master motion for 4.02 Treasurer's Report, 4.03 Check Register, 4.04 Budget Transfer, 4.05 Investments, 4.06 Exonerations. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bowman. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Brings us to Mr. Allen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Pertano. I would like to make a motion to include and accept items 5.01 through 5.07, which regards certified staff movements within the district.
Motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by, is that Mr. Kovitz said that? Yes, Mr. Kovitz. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Hollenbach, please.
I'd like to make a motion for 6.01 appointments, 6.02 retirements, resignations, end of assignments, 6.03 leaves of absence, 6.04 revised returns from leave, and that's it.
Thank you. A motion's been made. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Boyle. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I'd just like to note that we have 3 members of our support staff with 26.4 years, 27 years, and 27 and a half years that will be leaving us. Neshaminy thanks you for your long tenured service here. Hearing no other? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Bowman, number 7, please.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion for item 7.01, revised reopening health and safety plan. Whereas the Neshaminy School District is required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education to approve a reopening of schools health and safety plan, and whereas the phased reopening plan is, on September 8th, begin Plan C, online instruction through October 2nd. On October 5th, begin Plan B, Blue-Red Hybrid. On November 30th, begin Plan A, all student in school for grades K to 4, Monday through Thursday. Whereas the Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania Secretary of Health on November 23rd, 2020, directed public school entities in most Pennsylvania counties, if electing, to continue in-person instruction as of November 30th, 2020, to complete an attestation form via its chief public school administrator and the president of the school board, and submit same via email to PDE by November 30th, 2020, attesting to certain health and safety protocols within the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approve the Neshaminy School District reopening health and safety plan revisions to include, number 1, the face covering requirement will no longer permit face shields. Number 2, student mask break will only occur when students are at least 6 feet apart. Number 3, reduce unnecessary mixing of student groups at all levels. Number 4, indoor air quality improvements using bipolar ionization, or BPI, and ultraviolet germicidal irradiation, UVGI, prioritizing elementary schools. Number 5, partner with CHOP to provide rapid COVID testing to students and staff. Number 6, add district contact tracing personnel as needed. Be it further resolved, as part of its reopening plan and the president of the school board, Be it further resolved, as a part of its reopening plan, that the president of the school board and superintendent are directed to complete and submit the required attestation form to PDA pursuant to the orders dated November 23rd, 2020 and November 24th, 2020 from Governor Wolf and the Pennsylvania Department of Health to continue in-person instruction, with K to 4 to begin in-person instruction on Monday, November 30th, 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman. A motion's been made. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Hollenbeck. Any comments, questions, or concerns on item 7.01?
I would just like it to be noted for the record, so everybody is aware, that if we do not do this attestation form, that we would automatically go back to remote learning all the time for everybody, and that all co-curricular activities in every subject would be ceased. So we wouldn't even be in hybrid anymore if we do not sign this attestation form. Is that correct?
That's correct, Ms. Hollenbeck.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns?
I would like to move that we amend this to delay Plan A until such further time as we get through the holiday season.
A motion's been made on 7.01. It's been seconded by Mrs. Hollenbeck. An amendment's been raised by Mr. Kovitz to delay the opening of our beginning Plan A. Is there a second? Second. There's a second from Mrs. Boyle on the amendment. Do we take a vote on 701 first or the amendment first?
You can have a discussion on the amendment. If you want.
Okay, that opens up the floor for a discussion on the amendment to postpone Plan A. As I understand the motion made by Mr. Kovitz, to a date to be determined. Would that be correct, Mr. Kovitz?
Yeah, I mean, we are in the process of doing the indoor air improvements. I think that would certainly help, but we're also entering in a very high volume time of the year when we're getting together with our families. My concern is also for the teachers and staff. Obviously, we don't want to put anyone in danger, and again, it's not an easy decision. I want kids back at school, but I think given our recent the recent data from the county and from the state, I think it would be prudent for us to exercise an overabundance of caution here.
Do you have a criteria to add to the motion for how it is to be determined, when we could entertain moving to Plan A?
Yeah, my suggestion would be to wait until at least 2 weeks after our children get back after the school year, after the new year. That would be my recommendation.
So your suggestion is that we would delay the plan until the second week of January 2021?
That would be correct.
That wasn't stated in the original motion. Does anybody want to second that amendment to the amendment? Seconded by Mrs. Boyle. So the item for discussion is to delay moving to the Plan A for the K-4 students until the second week of January 2021. Is there any additional comments, questions, or concerns on that amendment?
I have a question. So to amend the motion to go to Plan A, you want to keep it as it is in hybrid, or are you recommending that we go remote?
Is that a question for me?
That would be a question for you, Mr. Kovich. You made the motion.
I would suggest we keep it at the current hybrid level. That's something that we know, and currently we seem to have that under control. So I just think I certainly wouldn't want to go any further or assume any more risk on that.
So if I'm clear, though, Mr. Tarente, if we move the date of A all in and keep it at the hybrid, we still have to sign off on this. Well, not we, Dr. McGee and Mr. Parentano would still have to sign off on the attestation.
That's correct, and that part of the motion has not been amended, so.
So we're only amending the date for A. Everything else in the motion would stay the same?
That's correct.
May I ask Dr. McGee for just clarification of what the options will be if we move into our next phase of the K-4 all-in?
Sure. At the elementary level, K through 4, parents will have the following options. They'll be able to elect 4 days in school, Monday through Thursday, with Friday Zooming. They'll be able to choose to do either one of our Plan D options. One is the Neshaminy School District Virtual Academy through Brandywine, which is a full cyber school experience. The other option is to do live streaming, which is basically a laptop in the classroom showing what's going on at an instructional activity. It's presently going on now with Plan D students. The other option would be to do asynchronous learning. Mrs. Burkhalter and the elementary staff have lessons that match what goes on in the classroom every day, packaged and ready to go, that if the live streaming is not working, whether not technically working, but not working for your family, you may choose to do that. And all of those options are movable on any given day, other than the virtual academy. If you choose the all-in, if you choose live streaming, if you choose asynchronous learning, you can move back and forth between any of them to the extent that a family feels comfortable.
So just, I want to make sure I understand that point. Ultimately, we are going to, as it stands now, because we already approved to go back 4 days a week, November 30th, it is the parent's choice, family's choice, to have their child, K through 4, do whatever they feel is best for their situation. And if this week they want to do Plan D, and next week they want to go to Plan A, or vice versa, they have the ability to do that. And we are just ultimately giving the parents or the families the choice of what they want to do for their situation.
That is essentially correct. We prefer they not change their mind every day, but we can accommodate it if necessary.
My point is, it's not us telling you you have to do one way or the other. We're just opening the schools K through 4 days a week and letting the parents or the families, I shouldn't just say parents, decide what they want to do for their individual needs.
Yes, that is correct.
They would still have that same choice under the current hybrid plan. right? They still
so-
have that choice to go to,
Correct. The nuance between the amendment and the original motion is all the choices are there, except in one motion, it's the hybrid choice is the most in-school instruction, 2 days a week. Then there's all the Plan G choices. In the original motion, it's the 4 days a week option, no hybrid choice, and all the Plan D options. So there is no 3-package option with the flexibility that we have.
But ultimately, we're still giving the parents choice right now with hybrid. They could send their kids in or not send their kids in, and, hey, you know what, I don't want to send them in the week after Thanksgiving because we're going around Aunt Betty or whatever the case may be. I'm going to keep them home out of an abundance of caution. It doesn't matter which plan we do. They have the choice to decide what they want to do for their family.
Yes.
the only difference, though, is that if we move to keep our November 30th date for all in, those elementary parents will have one less choice in that they won't be able to have their students participate in hybrid. That will go away as an option.
That is correct. The hybrid option will go away. It's actually the same number of choices. We're just swapping out the all-in choice and the hybrid choice.
Understood.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
But that's not necessarily the case. The family can decide what to do, how they want to do it, however they want to do it, correct?
Yes.
It's just not being titled hybrid. So hybrid technically is not an issue, but if you felt your child needed to stay home, you have that option. But
That is correct.
But parents that would like their children in 4 days currently do not have that option under the hybrid.
Correct. There is, to be exact, there are students in the building 4 days a week. They're of special needs. So there are approximately 200, 250 that do come in 4 days a week, but they are the only ones that have that option. Did I answer the question, or did I confuse the issue?
No, I think you answered that properly.
As a point of order here, can we pick a date, please? So you got it, all right. So we don't argue about what we said?
Not a problem,
Got
I'm
it.
getting to that. I just want to make a question. One of the speakers at the podiums spoke about a 3-foot distance, and I'm under the impression that that is not what we will be observing we're observing now, nor will be observing if we move to a 4-day-a-week model for all elementary students.
Was that a question to me, Mr. Parentano?
It's a question for you, Dr. McGee, unless you want me to make it up.
No, I'm looking for, so each classroom is a different size, each grade level K through 4 has a different class max, and each classroom has a different enrollment. So based on that, our elementary teachers and their principals have gone around the rooms, removed stuff, and they were able to come up with the minimum distance between desks by grade in a particular building. So, for example, our newest building probably has the least space available. So Tawanka, in kindergarten, there'll be 4.5 feet between center of the desk, and that's about as big as it gets at Fertibar.
But that's based upon the fact that if all the enrolled students show up.
Correct.
So we already know that we have students that are going to stay in a virtual model. They're not going to come, so the space in each room can still be optimized.
Correct. We've tried to give parents the information as if all the kids from blue, all the kids from red, and all the D plan kids came back. What actually materializes and what we're able to do. So we gave them a minimum. Now at other buildings, I'll pick Hoover. Kindergarten can be done at 6 feet if everybody comes back. First grade as well, second grade as well. But the third and fourth grade, based on class sizes and the configuration of those rooms, are down to 3 feet if everybody comes in.
Thank you. All right,
That's at 100% participation, so that if we only have 75% participation from the kids, then the desks would be moved further back.
Correct.
And we're not really expecting 100% participation, is that correct?
No, I assume the people on Plan D are going to stay on Plan D for this foreseeable future. The survey that went out before the November 10th vote indicated there were approximately 300 people that would move the other way. I'd imagine that might have changed a bit. So we won't know that until we actually see it happen. Right now, we're tracking 70 plus 50 on Monday, so 125 elementary students that will go from the hybrid back to Plan D. Whether that changes after tonight's meeting or not, I can't speak to it.
All right, at this time, I'm going to call for any final comments and questions before I make a clarification on Mr. Kovitz's motion. Or any additional comments and questions for discussion?
I do have one question.
Go right ahead.
Dr. McGee, how confident are you in the health and safety plan that you've came up with tonight with the additional amendments?
I'm confident that it's worked in the past. I think what did the financial advisors say? Past performance is not an indicator of future success given the spike, so we don't know. It has worked. Mr. Meehan, Mr. Devlin, and the principals do a great job. The teachers and staff do a great job. As I talk to other schools, as I visit other places, they don't have the things that we have. So I think we've done an outstanding job. The question is, will that continue with the increased caseload in our community? So what I can tell you is that regardless of what the board decides, if I see it moving in our schools, I'm going to act quickly to close that particular school, or if it means broader than that, until the board can act again. So no, we don't want it spreading in our schools, and at the first indication that it has, I will act. I have no indication other than 2 adults at the high school that has happened yet. And that has been over the last couple weeks when we've been pretty high. Now, it's not pleasant to know that it's come to school, but the fact that it comes to school and hasn't been moved is of comfort to our present plan. So we have multiple variables going there. We have the spike in the community, and we have the reduction of distance. All right, so there are 2 variables that are in play here that could change that, but we will watch it constantly. We will watch it constantly.
Sounds like you got a good game plan.
I have one final question.
Go right ahead.
Is it the recommendation, Dr. McGee, for you and the administration that we stay the course? We already voted on November 30th, and to keep it November 30th, that's what your recommendation is?
That is my recommendation based on what I know now and what I know we can do in the future and what I'm allowed to do in the future. So yes, that is my recommendation. I don't know that the numbers are going to change significantly anytime soon. So if you go back, we probably should have opened school the first day of school. They were the best numbers we had, and then we probably should have, right? Every time we delay, the numbers are worse. So it seems to be that if we give people the option and choice, and more will come back, and it's not going to be a pleasant winter, right? So let's hope the health and safety plan can work, and if there's any indication that it's not, we plan on acting, if not in that particular building, and if it's widespread, the entire district, until the board can act itself.
Yeah, I have one question as well for Dr. McGee, I guess. In your mind, the attestation, whatever that word is, attestation, is that right?
Yes.
That we're about to sign?
Attestation.
Attestation, right? How does that make our kids and our staff safer in your view?
As far as Neshaminy goes, I'm not sure. We follow the guidelines. I can only assume that they're pointing to the governor's mask order and make you attest to it, in that there may be some institutions that are not throughout the Commonwealth. We are. Kids are following it. Teachers are reminding them. The second piece is that we will follow the shutdown guidelines on a school-by-school basis. So the example would be, excuse me, it's based on size of the school, under 500, between 500 and 900, and over 900. If there are a particular number of cases over a 14-day window, it'd be required for us to make sure we can contact trace and clean the building, et cetera, and they give recommended days to close down to do that. Presently, we're able to do that overnight with confidence. if it comes to a point that we're not, there's recommendations as to what we will follow. Unfortunately, that guidance is so new, Mr. Marrington, that they haven't told us what counts as a case. They haven't told us when the 14-day window starts. The belief is it doesn't start till November 30th. And we're not sure what happens when you close the school. Does your window start again? We're not sure when a case gets tallied. Is it when it's reported, when it came to school, so there's a whole bunch of questions. If there's going to be a metric to do something, you all have to make sure that you count the same way. So it's new as of Thursday.
Right. But I think in your view, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that you feel that this will help make everybody safer and maybe alleviate some of the concerns of faculty and parents in sending their young children back to school.
I don't know that I'm going to alleviate those concerns, because everybody has their own personal family issues and their own tolerance for risk, which is one of the reasons why there's so much choice within the plan from the beginning. I don't know that the metric itself, and the Department of Education actually says that, excuse me, they're going to change the metric in one of their paragraphs. So we have yet to see that.
We don't know.
The metric actually gives everyone something to look at and question as to, are things going well? Are things going well?
Okay, thank you.
One final set of questions before we move on. Dr. McGee, since the start of this pandemic, and more recently since August when we started moving into the new school year, there has been not one case other than the 2 teachers that you've identified at the high school where any spread of the virus has occurred in the schools.
That is correct. So there's not. It's not like they're not even in many cases. In almost all cases, not even in the same class, and most of the time, the Department of Health or the parent tells us where they got it from. It does come to school, but it has not moved in our school yet.
And recently, the CDC has come out with new guidance stating that they feel the school environment is one of the safest environments for people to be in due to all the mitigation factors that schools are employing.
There are a number of institutions that say school is safer as compared to what the children will be doing outside of school. I think that varies by level. Again, the reason we're targeting our elementary school is they're the most needy for the face-to-face instruction, and they're the least likely to misbehave because for the most part they're always supervised by their parents. So this seems to be the logical next step as the least risky step as we proceed forward.
And out of all the students and staff that have been contact traced within our environment since August, there has been no case of transmission from anyone that's been identified in a modified quarantine.
I actually have no belief that has happened either. The modified quarantine is used. It's not for household. If there's a positive in the house, the modified quarantine does not apply. It's an at-home quarantine. The modified quarantine is based on a mathematical model that the chances of this individual being positive are less, probably because the window, we're deeper in the window, they're asymptomatic, etc. So it is used infrequently, and for the most part, because of the constant mask requirement and the requirement to eat alone, most students don't come to school.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. At this time, I'm going to call a question. Now, to re-clarify, there has been a motion made on 7.01, which was seconded by Mrs. Hollenbeck. A subsequent amendment to 7.01 was made by Mr. Kovitz, and to correctly state his amendment, Mr. Kovitz is proposing that we delay the implementation of Plan A that was unanimously approved by the board on the 11/10/2020 meeting to the date of January 11th, 2021, and that we would remain in a hybrid model that we are currently in. Is that correct, Mr. Kovitz?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Does someone wish to second that? Well, we didn't put the date in, that's why it's got to be seconded. Mrs. Boyle seconds that amendment to the amendment to the amendment.
It's a
Okay,
third
so
amendment.
It's a third amendment. Okay. Now, the question is being called. All in favor?
You're gonna-
you
You should
suggest
take
a roll call?
and it's a vote on the amendment.
That was so we're voting on the amendment
Right.
first.
Third amendment.
Right, so on the third amendment, if you vote yes, then you're agreeing to postpone. If you vote no, you're staying with the plan that was authorized on 11/10. And we're going to take a roll call vote. Mrs. Burns, would you call the roll on the third amendment, please?
Mr. Parentano?
No.
Mr. Allen?
No.
Mrs. Bowman?
No.
Ms. Boyle? Mrs. Hallenbeck?
No.
Mr. Kovitz?
Yes.
Mr. Marrington?
No.
Mr. Cirillo?
No.
2 yes and 6 no.
Okay, the amendment fails. Brings us back to the original question on 7.01. Motion was made by Mrs. Bowman, seconded by Mrs. Hollenbeck. All in favor? Should we do a roll call vote as well?
You should do a roll call, yeah.
All right, Mrs. Burns, call the roll on 7.01 as stated by Mrs. Bowman.
Mr. Parentano?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman?
Yes.
Ms. Boyle? Mrs. Hallenbeck?
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz?
Yes.
Mr. Marrington?
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion passes 8-0. That brings us to our next business, which is 7.02. Is that Mr. Kovitz?
It is. I'd like to make a motion to pass 7.02, update the articles of agreement related to the Bucks County Technical High School, whereas the Neshaminy School District has partnered with other lower Bucks County school districts to form the Bucks County Technical High School, and whereas over 300 Neshaminy students attend the Bucks County Technical High School annually, and now therefore be it resolved, the Neshaminy Board of School Directors approves the revised Articles of Agreement as edited between the partnering lower Bucks County school districts. File attachments BCTHS, Articles of Agreement, edit copy revision 10.09.2020.pdf, enrollment quota budget, recalcs, 3-year average revision 10.9.20.pdf.
Thank you, Mr. Kovitz. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. 8.01, who had that?
I have that.
Mr. Marrington, please.
Yes, 8.01 is the Neshaminy High School Library renovation approval. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the Neshaminy High School Library renovation project.
Thank you, Mr. Marrington. Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cirillo, was that? By Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. 8.02, is that you, Mr. Cirillo?
It is.
Please read that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 8.02, Neshaminy Kids Club lease. Whereas the Neshaminy School District has lawful possession either as owner or as a tenant of various elementary school buildings located within its geographical limits, and those buildings not owned by the school district is permitted under its lease with the owner of said buildings to sublet portions of those buildings on a per diem basis. And whereas the Neshaminy Elementary School Age Child Care, Pennsylvania Cooperation, DBA, Neshaminy Kids Club, wishes to continue to conduct after-school private child care programs for elementary school children in regular classrooms and such other areas designated by the school district in one or more elementary school buildings of the school district, which program shall operate during the hours of 7 a.m. to the start of the school day and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on all days that the school district conducts school sessions. And whereas the school district and Neshaminy Kids Club desire that Neshaminy Kids Club continue to conduct its after-school private child care programs for the term of 7 years, which shall terminate on June 30th, 2028, without necessity of notice from either the school district or Neshaminy Kids Club to the other. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors approves the annexed lease agreement, authorizes the president and secretary of the board to execute said lease agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Cirillo. Motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kovitz. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Boyle, Section 9, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading and approval of policies 6, 6.1, 317, 903, and 12. Whereas the first reading of policies 6, 6.1, 12, 317, and 903 was completed at the Public Board work session on November 10th, 2020. Whereas the following revised policies are being recommended by the Policy Committee for board adoption into the Neshaminy School District Policy Manual.
Thank you, Mrs. Boyle. Motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I have one, Mr. Torrente. This means I no longer have to read Section 2.01 once we approve these?
That is correct, Mr.
Thank you.
President, yes.
Based upon that alone, I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. That brings us to other board business. Is there any school board member have any business before the board? Hearing none, bring us to our second public comment period. Again, you have 3 minutes. You'll be called to the podium by the chair. When you've reached the podium, your name, area in which you reside, your occupation, and please no personal attacks. Does anybody wish to come to the podium for second public comment? Seeing none, we're going to move over to board comment. Mrs. Bowman, do you have any comment this evening?
I do. I just want to remind parents, specifically 8th graders and 9th graders, if you would like to apply to the Bucks County Technical High School, applications will be accepted next Monday, November 30th, until December 4th. They must be dropped off to the guidance office in person, and then we will have a virtual lottery that will take place, and the numbers will be pulled on December 17th. So applications are due Monday. So you have next week to get your application in. It must be delivered in person. I highly encourage 8th graders, if you are interested in applying to tech, please get those applications in next week. Thanks, and I hope everybody has a safe and healthy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mrs. Boyle, do you have any comment this evening?
I just wanted to thank the administration for all the work that they've done, and I hope everybody has a good holiday season.
Thank you. Mrs. Hollenbeck.
In this unprecedented time, I think it would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge not only the administration, but the certificated and the support staff, without whose efforts we would not be able to be doing any of these things for our children and getting them back into schools. Whether it's hybrid for middle and high school or the 4 days a week for the elementary students, if it wasn't for our staff on all levels, we would not be able to do this. I also want to urge all families, this isn't telling you you have to do something one way or the other. All we are doing is giving you the choice to do what you feel is best in your situation for your family. Everybody has their own individual needs, and that's what you need to consider first and foremost. With that, I'd like to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mr. Kovitz, please.
Yes, just to mirror everyone else, I'm thankful for everyone that makes our regular school district work, from Dr. McGee and administration to the teaching staff, to the support staff. I'm thankful for all of you. Thankful for everybody else here on stage that make things work from behind the scenes. And my hope is that everyone has a very safe and healthy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mr. Marrington.
Okay, yes, I'd also like to wish everybody a happy holiday, happy Thanksgiving. There were some concerns. I as a former teacher, I was listening very attentively to teachers who were concerned about coming back in full time. I hope that the the changes we're making here will alleviate some of those concerns for teachers and for family, and for the kids who will have the option. And I think the fact that it is an option, it was important in my decision. Parents will have the option of sending young kids, who I think we all agree need to be in school in person more than older children. I think the fact that the choice is there, that the administration has put together a plan that offers maximum amounts of choice, I really hope that does alleviate many of the safety concerns that we all have. I think as a board, I know in discussions, we've all put the safety of our children and our employees and the whole community first. That being said, getting kids back in school is also important. And I think, as Dr. McGee has said, that we have the ability to change pretty quickly. I'm not going to say turn on a dime, but we do have the ability to go back to a hybrid model pretty quickly if that turns out to be necessary. So I just hope everybody does. I'll say again, everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. We all stay safe and do the best we can to make this plan work.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo.
I'm in very much agreement with Mrs. Hollenbeck, Mr. Kovitz, Mr. Marrington. I echo all of their sentiments. I just want to continue to thank Dr. McGee and the administration, all the teachers and faculty, as well as the support staff. It really is an invaluable job that you're doing. It means a lot to these kids. I know there's a lot of concerns for your health and safety as well, and you are putting you're putting our children first, and that's very, very admirable. Having said that, I appreciate it, and I want all of you to have a sincere, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vertano. I have a couple points. First, I'd like to echo the sentiment a few of our board members mentioned here. We'd be very remiss if we didn't acknowledge the contribution that our certified staff, our teachers, have given to this district. That you are putting yourselves in front of a classroom. We are, believe me, aware of the risk you're taking. Your concerns are noted, and they entered into our deliberations. We haven't forgotten that. And we thank you for your cooperation and your support for the district moving forward. With that, I'd like to mention again the building environment, the improvements to our filtration, microbial mediation. We have indeed made the elementary schools priority. Moving ahead with that, that is something that came out of our facilities and planning meetings to bump the elementary schools in front of the line, trying to, and we had a plan where that plan kind of put aside as soon as we agreed that the elementary schools needed to be a priority. Moving on from that, we will be moving into the middle schools and in the high school with that plan. I would like to thank the board for accepting the updates to the articles of agreement with their tech school. That we are so lucky to have that facility as an option in this district. One of the things during conversations last evening at the board meeting, a board member stepped in who is a graduate of the tech school, another successful tradesman in the community. And I think the success stories that come out of the tech school says a lot for the quality of education that goes on there. I'm so glad that we have that option. And I thank the board for agreeing to one more year with our association with that. With that, I say a happy Thanksgiving. However you're able to gather this Thursday, I hope it's with warmth and joy among family and friends. And thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I'll finish up real quick here. First, I was remiss. I usually make it a point to recognize our long-term service members here that retire. We had two teachers, one with 37 years of service, another one with 30 years of service that were on tonight's agenda for retirement. And Neshaminy thanks you for your many years of service here, and I wish you well in retirement. As everyone else has mentioned, this place doesn't operate without our core people, and that starts with our staff, our certified staff, our teachers, our support staff. This place can't operate. The administration has done a fantastic job of coordinating and making Neshaminy, I think, one of the safest environments that we have here in Lower Bucks County. I know that the emotion around these issues can be very intense. When you look at the county numbers, you have to remember that Bucks County is a big county, and they're not Neshaminy numbers. And while no doubt, cases on the rise, Neshaminy has remained stable. And we have the protocols and mitigations that we put in place have been working. It's that confidence in the staff that's with the kids every day and with the administration that allowed me, and I'll only speak for myself, to accept the plan that was recommended by the administration. As mentioned by there are plenty of options in that plan, but the ultimate option in that plan is Dr. McGee does not need the consent of the school board to shut down a school or shut down the district if he feels it is unsafe. That's a decision that relies with him. He is the stopgap. And I can assure you from all the conversations that we had that if for some reason it appears that the numbers are growing to a point where it's uncontrollable or it's spreading, Dr. McGee has the authority and will shut down an individual school or shut down the district for whatever the prescribed period of time needed to be to either clean and mitigate inside the schools or just wait until the Bucks County Department of Health helps in the contact tracing and quarantining of those people that need to be quarantined. So I understand, we all understand the emotion that's behind it. We want what's best. We feel this is a safe plan. We feel this is the best plan for our youngest learners, which are proving to be our most vulnerables in this environment. And we hope that it goes well, and we have all expectations that it will. But as I stated, there is a stopgap, and Dr. McGee has the authority to act when he feels it's necessary. In stating Dr. McGee, once again, I think now this makes about my 7th meeting that I have forgotten to allow Dr. McGee to speak first. As it's our tradition, I also blame Mr. Cirillo for not reminding me again. So at this time, I'll defer to Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Parentano. I think everyone covered what I was going to say, but I will end with this is not about denying that the virus is real. It's very real. We're in a very real situation. And what we do in the school was only a small part of what's going to keep us open. It's what each of our families do, each of our community members in Neshaminy and beyond do throughout the day, throughout their week, that's going to keep Neshaminy open. So it's incumbent upon all of us to contribute to that, or ultimately the incidents in the community will force our schools to close simply because we cannot keep up. Unfortunately, the administrative team has the opportunity of dealing directly with those who've tested positive. And almost to a person, they didn't plan to get it, and they can't believe it's hit their family. Now, fortunately, it's not hit them hard, to our knowledge, but no one plans to get it. You only know it after the fact. So if you can just put that out there and think you are responsible, every one of us is responsible for keeping our schools open. And it's what we do probably outside of school that will help keep our schools open. And if we can't accomplish that, ultimately it's going to be us, ourselves, who close our schools simply because the numbers can't be sustained as far as making sure that everybody is safe. So it's not just about us. It's about what you do, each of you, in your family, on the weekend, at night, the chances that you take. So if you can work with us, do not send your children to school if they're not feeling well. Put them on the live stream. Limit your exposure, limit your chances, particularly if you want to keep our kids in school, and particularly if you want to keep your family safe. All right? So thank you, and happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy the short break.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. I would like to wish the entire community a happy Thanksgiving. Please enjoy with your family, and please be responsible, as we've talked about. Stating that, I'd like to make a motion, close the meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kovitz. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.